You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
Sandi Minds, guess what is 1 week away? Just 1 week.
FFANY Market Week.
FFANY Market Week. You nailed it on the first try. You get a gold star, a proverbial gold star. I don't have a real one for you. But we are a week away from FFANY Market Week. June Market, it's one of the hot markets of the 4 markets that we host in New York City. You're the queen, Poobah. You're the one who runs like the whole kit and caboodle, right? With the pop-up and this and then that, the Wi-Fi and, making sure everything's running smoothly. And so today we're going to have a conversation with an expert, not just in marketplaces in footwear, but also she's an expert in kids footwear, which is a whole different world with our industry, right? Everyone thinks they can make adult shoes and just shrink those shoes down for little bitty feet. And it's fun, it's cute, and it's easy. Well, we're going to burst your bubble if you're listening to this episode, and that's what you think. And so who is on Shoe and Show today?
Yeah, we are really excited about our guest today on Shoe and Show. It is Maureen Duffy-Tan. She is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at BBC. She's also been a friend of mine for many, many years. She's an expert in children's footwear, and we are just so thrilled to have you on today. So welcome, Maureen.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. So why don't we start out and find out what your shoe story is, Maureen? That's one of the first questions we usually ask, and just to understand how people got into the industry. And so tell us all about your shoe story.
Sure, absolutely. I got in through the shoe industry through a dear friend, Tracy McLeod. We are childhood friends, and it was a few years after college, and she was here at BBC working as a designer. And at the time, I was working in marketing for a fragrance development company. And she told me about an opening. And, what she said about BBC still is true today. Entrepreneurial, fast-paced fashion, and shoes. So, left perfume behind and got into the shoe business, and it's been a fabulous ride.
That's awesome. I love Tracy too, and I know you guys worked together really closely and helped each other build a phenomenal business under the guidance and the leadership of Bobby Campbell. So yes. Many people know who Bobby Campbell was, and I'd love you to share a little bit about the history and the making of BBC and children's and how Bobby kind of helped shape your career and what he gave you as the founder of BBC.
Yeah. I well up even thinking about him. I really love Bob, and I really love working for him. He taught me so much about the shoe industry as well as about life. I admired him tremendously. He and his partner, Don Wilborn, embodied the American dream, came from humble beginnings, worked hard, and, realized some of the greatest treasures in this country. But Bob really, he was fearless, and he encouraged us all to take risks. And he was the man I called when I had a big win, and he was the guy I called when I made a mistake. He was just always, he allowed for mistakes. He understood it was a part of business, and it was a part of life. And he was there to troubleshoot with you and figure it out. And he was just such an optimist. And working for someone like him who had been through the roller coaster of life and success and failures was so comforting. And as the confidence he had in me encouraged me to have more confidence in myself and my skills. And he always allowed us to grow and gave us new challenges. The other thing I learned from him through the hard way was to be prepared. I was transitioning from one position in marketing to another, and my boss at the time couldn't make a meeting. So he said, just go to Boston. You'll go see Jay Baker, and you'll sit there and you'll just listen, but the salesperson's going to do the presentation. And I hadn't interfaced with Bob very much at the time. And I was I took time to care in how I looked, but I sat in the back of the room, didn't know anything about the agenda. Bob decided I would do a better job. So he literally pushed me in front of the buyers and said, this is Maureen. She's going to do marketing. She can do a better job than sales. And I stood up there and stumbled through and promised to follow up, but I learned the lesson. Always be prepared. So from that point on, I vowed I would show up and do to the best of my abilities for BBC. So it was invaluable.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we all have a story, a Bob story. And in fact, I encourage our listeners, we interviewed Bob at FN Platform many years ago. Go back, just Google Shoe and Show Bob Campbell, and you can hear our conversation with him. His whole story, it's just so amazing. Maureen, let's get into the nitty gritty of the kids business, because that's where your expertise lies. And from that moment when you were the newbie learning how to be prepared, now you're uber prepared and you're super wise because you've been at it for quite some time. Talk to us about what makes the kids business unique. I kind of joked about it coming into this conversation, but tell us more about, from your perspective, why it is unique.
Sure. First, kids' feet grow every 4 to 6 months. So especially in the toddler range, when my son was little, he's 20 now, but when I was around other parents, they'd say, check on my kid's shoe. And invariably someone needed new shoes, so they really do grow fast. And kids' shoes cost about the same to make as adult footwear, yet we go to market 15 to 20% less at retail. And of course there are many exceptions to that, leather shoes, but the real only difference is in the upper materials. And in the case of leather, we're not making a lot of leather shoes in adults or in kids today. The other real challenge, when you stop and think and you talk about kids' shoes, there are 33 sizes in kids' shoes. Plus, if you're going to do layette, there's another 5. So you're talking about 38 sizes. And that's just to get one shoe. Plus, you're never going to do sticks. So it takes 40 pairs of shoes in a stock room to represent one half pair of shoe on a shelf. And when you stop and think about who your audience is, you're talking about a newborn to a child who's about 11. You're talking about boys, you're talking about girls. And you think about their needs from newborn to 11. They are 1,000 different people with 1,000 different wants, and that one person changes so much. So it's complicated, and the sizing piece and understanding the sizing. And for the most part, kids' footwear, and I'm going to talk general. Someone tells me they make more, but kids' footwear is more challenging margin-wise for the vendor and for the retailer. So when you're in the business, it's because you're investing in tomorrow's future adult consumer, or you're investing in the consumer's experience within your stores. We have a major retailer leaving the U.S., leaving kids market and this year. And it was because of, the internal margins and what can we do with that real estate? We can make more money if we put apparel or we put, hats or another category. So there tends to be a real passionate group of us kids shoe experts that spend a lot of time understanding a lot of the nuances of the business.
That's really interesting. And I know that the trends have been for online shopping. Obviously, we've been talking about that for the past 5 or 10 years or whatnot. But for kids' footwear, it's really challenging to do online shopping because you don't know what size, you don't know what they like. You can't order 6 different pairs of shoes, right? So you really do need to rely on the sit and fit, the family chains, and so on, right? Give us a little bit of an idea of the percentage of total sales that the children's that comes from the children's footwear in a family shoe store. Tell us a little bit about that and what the challenges are there or possibly the opportunity.
Absolutely. So in the space of, it varies. So for example, in department stores, kids' shoes accounts for 8 to 10%. And you think about what that is, there's more of toddler and child. That typically children walk away from department stores because it's what they remember as when they bought their kids' shoes, and they're with the little brother and sister. So the athletic specialty stores, they sell a lot more of the junior sizes, and they can account for 30% could be about the penetration in kids footwear. Family channel, again, cater shoes only, they're about 20%. So it's roughly, there's a big swing there, right, in terms of what kids shoes represents, in the marketplace. But we know when we have a brand, which is a lifestyle brand, we look to do about 10 to 12% of whatever the adult shoe brand is doing. Of course, we, goal to do more, but we're sitting about right when we're 10 to 12% of what the adult shoe is doing.
That's right. And you have a lot of amazing brands that you represent and a lot of great partners you represent. And there's a lot of storytelling, right? You're a marketer at heart, and your team has been great at marketing. And I know that's a little bit more challenging these days in terms of floor space or online shopping and things like that. Tell us a little bit about marketing, what you do, what you found effective, what you find challenging for children's footwear.
So in general, for children's footwear, we have a fantastic partners, and our partners are experts in brand building and strategic marketing. Where they partner, if they do their own adult footwear, why aren't they doing their own kids footwear? And it's really that the sweet spot is when they're branding in collaboration with us as footwear experts, and then they can help us drive into the message. And the best product mix that we have is a combination. We're most successful when we do direct takedowns and kid specific footwear. So, and it really depends on the shoe, and it depends on the category and who you're catering to. But in terms of marketing, it really we rely heavily on the brands, because it's the heat they drive with the brand. And even more specifically, it's the heat they're driving with the adult footwear product. So, what's happening in apparel doesn't always mean a successful kids brand. Sadly, kids shoes is not a leading category. We have to draft off success of adult shoes and success of brand. I'm not sure I answered your question fully.
You totally answered. At least you did for me. And
okay.
And that leads me to this question on trends, Maureen, because you mentioned that kids' footwear is 10 to 12% of the adult size of the business. But does that necessarily mean that it's going to be drafting entirely off the trends that you see in the adult business, or are there going to be some differences between the two? And then my next question is, what are those trends right now? My kids are all teenagers and on their way out of the house. So I'm not tracking children's shoe trends as much as I used to just 5 or 10 years ago. So educate us on what you're seeing on the trend side when it comes to kids' footwear.
So to answer your first question, kids' footwear can be unique in terms of what's working in kids' footwear versus what's working in adults. There are definitely there's some general trends that we absolutely follow. I think one of the biggest trends that's happening in kids' footwear is the impact of social media, and how that is, those eyes and those views are galvanizing demand around fewer and fewer, not just styles, but colors of the shoe. So there's so much, and it really is galvanizing around athletic footwear. So, where you see the casualization of American wardrobing, it's even more pronounced in kids. We used to have school shoes and Sunday school shoes and dress shoes, and really the sneakers are being worn to all of those occasions. And there's a couple of, I won't name those brands, but that are just they're year round, and they're substitutes for athletic and sandals. And that's really the challenge. I find it so difficult, is the galvanization around fewer and fewer SKUs. I've had retailers tell me I could have 6 SKUs. If I had enough of my top 6 shoes, that's all I would need in my store. So unless you're one of those top 6, and it's even more difficult for them to forecast into what those top 6 SKUs will be because of the influence of social media. So it's really a combination, and too much pressure, I feel, is one of the challenges on the athletic category.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a return to more different types of shoes in the wardrobe.
Yeah.
If I could affect that, I would. Yeah.
You do represent several different brands. Are you looking, as BBC, looking to attract more collaborations, more licensed footwear? Like, is that an area that you're leaning into right now, or you feel like you have enough on your plate and you're in good shape for the near future.
So we're always looking, and I should mention about the new leaders as Bob really did a fantastic job, and our new leadership, Seth Campbell, his son, and Josue Solano, still maintain that applaud your wins, help you troubleshoot, and they've added. We're risk takers and we're more strategic, which really these times demand. Since the COVID roller coaster, we all need to be more strategic, and we are, in how we look at things and we look at opportunities. So Seth Campbell heads up the new business development team. So yes, we're always looking for new opportunities. And we also have something exciting, which Bob always wanted, which is our own brand, Kid Power. And we did a collaboration, Kid Power times Hello Kitty at Journeys. You'll see more of that at the upcoming Fanny show. But that's been a real win. Bob always wanted to have his own kids brand. So this is one of the ideas he came up with probably 10 years ago. And we know he's up there happy that it's happening and that we're turning at double digits.
Oh, wow.
Because you wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah,
it's been fantastic.
We should give kudos to Josue because he is one of our bosses. He's the vice chair of the board of directors at FDRA. So shout out to Josue if you're listening, buddy. We love you.
So tell us how you're going to be showing up in market in just a little bit of time here in June.
So we are on, we have a beautiful showroom, 29th and 5th Avenue. We have all of our brands represented, the full portfolio of brands, the wholesale, the owned brands, the kids' character properties, and we're launching spring 25. So the thing I love about my favorite part of the business is when the new product drops, an exciting new product. We have a really strong, we're coming up on our 50-year anniversary. We have a really strong team. The foundation is strong. And one of the things that keeps me here at BBC is when I walk a sales floor. Invariably, I'm proud of the product we put on the selling floor. It's really just great quality kid shoes, and we don't cut corners. So I've failed to mention one of the other challenges of kid shoes is really all the compliance issues around it. Really high standards to make sure, we're putting safe footwear in the market. Two of the things you'll see from us at this show is we're always looking for durability and comfort too. So we're working with our sourcing partners overseas to add more features and benefits and durability, comfort, as well as sustainability. It is a focus for us here at BBC, looking to do a better job as a vendor and incorporate more sustainable eco-friendly materials and processes. So that's I don't know that we do a good enough job of talking through that, when we're with the retail community, but it is a focus of ours. And, you'll see it throughout our lines, and maybe we should do a better job of pointing that out. We know we've learned that you really can't get more from the consumer for doing it. It's an expectation that it should be done. But we certainly are making those efforts.
Yeah, we've learned that. We've done a lot of polling of consumers around sustainability in particular, and have learned that in a variety of different ways. Last question, Maureen, as we close out, talk to us about one of the key highlights of your career. Like if you were to pinpoint, say, this was the moment, maybe it was that meeting with Bob where you felt you weren't quite prepared and you got pushed to lead a meeting, or maybe it's some other kind of awesome accomplishment. But what's one thing that you could point to in your career that really was that special moment for you?
All right, so I'm totally going to date myself. You'll know my age, but it was when I was, at BBC, and we had just secured our first Disney property in Winnie the Pooh. And I was working with the design team, and they were seasoned product development, sourcing experts. So we put the best of the best on the team. And but what they didn't know was CAD, computer aided design. They were hand drawing. So it was a new position to me because I was working marketing in our branded division, and then came over to work in the character. And we go out to our first Disney meeting, proud as peacocks with our deck, and they're all hand drawings. So the designers with me, I stood in front of them and I kept the designers. The designers couldn't look past the handwork. So, but I kept pushing like, okay, we just have to get through this. But look at the design. And weeks later, we're still working on redrawing. And then I sat with the designers and the internal team and said, look, we have to get up. You have to get up to speed. And, they were concerned. So, but they continued to, as we prepped for the next season, they continued to give me hand drawings. And like a month or two before the meeting, I had a meeting with them and I said, look, and, I said, we have to talk about this CAD issue. They smiled ear to ear. They had spent nights in the office learning to CAD.
Wow.
And they were so proud and they wanted me to be proud. And we went on to grow that to the biggest brand BBC's had at the time. It was, back at the time. And we had so much fun. And it was just that. And they thanked me for not pushing them aside for younger designers with that capability and for believing in them. And I really feel like it was the lesson Bob taught me. He believed that I could achieve, and learn and grow. And it stayed with me. I can still.
That's cool.
And they were goofing with me by continuing to hand sketch.
That's great. I mean, that's really pretty amazing. And I could see your passion about your dedication to BBC and taking risks and to honoring Bob. And 210 has like a Bob Campbell Lifetime Achievement Award that they're going to be handing out during June Market Week. Diane Sullivan is the recipient. She's all about mentorship too. So I applaud these amazing women like yourself. And I know you've given back. I know you've inspired so many people. You've really been tremendous. So congratulations to you and all the work that you've done there.
Thank you so much. So kind.
Yeah. Well, Maureen, we can't thank you enough for coming on Shoe and Show and telling us your shoe story and setting us straight on what the kids' business is and what it's not. And we wish you an amazing market week and continued success at BBC. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, folks. It's been another exciting edition of the Shoe and Show. Head to shoeandshow.com for all the latest episodes or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are delivering timely footwear business information to your phone and to your AirPods at all hours of the night. Make sure you subscribe, share these episodes, and join us again next week as we bring in another thought leader within the footwear industry. Until then, Shoe and Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.